up to your future like you've never seen before.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, Leo King, and this is your weekend astrology forecast for the weekend of September the 8th through the 9th of 2018. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of FutureLife.tv. And if you are not a subscriber to FutureLife.tv, make sure that you subscribe now. Get the 7-day free trial to try it out. FutureLife.tv or on the app. We got lots of people on there, and we just added Tim Losey, a health astrologer, doing daily health astrology horoscopes. We got more than horoscopes, daily love readings. We got all these awesome people. Check it out, FutureLife.tv. Well, the new moon is here. And, you know, before I did this video, I actually stopped a last video because I had to pull back for a second because this is a deep channeled energy that I really have to share with everybody. I mean, this is more than just a new moon on a chart. You know, I mean, in astrology, sure, we use charts, we look at them and we really encode them and we give you the keyhole, I like to say, to really unlock what's going on in the universe and inside of yourself. But you know, this new moon is not just a new moon. The reason why, of course, is because the last 2 months we had solar eclipses back to back, and the last time that happened was 2011. And why is that so significant? Well, number one, it's been a long time, number one, since we had that. But number two is because whenever we come into a new moon that comes after a solar eclipse, that's usually when, in my opinion, as doing horoscopes, as long as I've been doing them, that's when I've felt the energy is always like that eclipse energy has been done, and now it's time to really move into this new energy. And of course, new moons are about new beginnings. They are about stepping into a new place. But this one's more extreme than usual, especially because if we look back at 2011, when the last new moons were solar eclipses back to back, that was pre the 2012 shift. That was also at the time that Uranus had finally entered back into Aries. Of course, we had Fukushima, you know, right before. It was a very intense time, I'm sure, if you remember. And here we are on a whole different playing field now. This has been much more incredible, as of course we had this Mars retrograde, and now of course Mars is direct, it's in shadow, it's coming out of Capricorn, coming into Aquarius on the 10th. So, you know, this weekend is the end of Mars at this last degree of Capricorn. And this has been a long story, okay? This has been pretty much all year, right? Mars in this same area. You've been able to go see it out in the sky for this long. You don't get to see that a lot. Mars is a warrior running around, you know. It's very hard to see him up there in the sky, and actually for this long too. So, you know, this has been a very powerful time just in the fact for that. But then we add to boot, of course, during these eclipses and stuff, you know, all the retrogrades that had happened. And now finally with Saturn direct, this is a time for us, especially in its home sign, and in a grand trine that just happened with Mercury and with Uranus and Taurus. I mean, this has been really about this kind of revolutionary shift in new direction and new paths. And honestly, it's a major shakeup that's coming in our lives. And I know that I might sound crazy, but you know, these are kind of crazy times. It is a new moon, and the sun, which has been opposing Neptune. I mean, this has been channeling some past life deep information. This has been looking forward into, you know, the glimpse of where spirituality, where our collective consciousness is truly going. And I think that this has been a very pivotal moment this weekend as we are about to enter into a whole entire new chapter into our lives. It's one of purification, you know. We're looking at all the things as light workers, as soul workers, as individuals of, you know, what is no longer truly serving us, what is no longer going to really be able to be on the path to create the reality that we want in our lives. While at the same token, this is a big time with Jupiter, which is in a powerful, and I mean powerful sextile over you know, to this new moon, while at the same time we've got this new moon trining Pluto. And we've got this Jupiter-Pluto sextile, which is very powerful about opening doors and change and endings at the same time, while this new moon is highlighting this extremely about how to make adjustments in our life, what's not going to work anymore, what is. And this is a lot about, like, how is this all going to come together? Because we have been frazzled. I mean, if you look back at these last couple months, it has been a frazzle fest. I mean, literally, you were just all over the place. Energy is just all over. And this has been Mars, which has been squaring Uranus for months. this has been our identities going into fracture pieces and trying to pick up all the pieces. And this especially deals with our courage. This deals with our strength, especially with this North Node in Leo and these eclipses that were in Leo. This has been a definite powerhouse of, how do we pick up all these pieces? How do we really truly find strength when we have been tested to the very bare bones of our soul, to the core of who we are, of whether or not we can still move forward, whether or not we still have it in us to truly make this all happen. This is a very powerful earth time in the astrology. And this is kind of interesting to me as well, since we have so much earth right now in the astrology, especially with this new moon, right? Venus is coming into Scorpio, leaving air, and it's in shadow. We're going to talk about that in a second. But, there's no air in the chart for the moment of this new moon. Like, there is no air except the south node in Aquarius, but that's an invisible knot in space. So, it's like literally, this is very heavy, while at the same time, really about this huge manifestation of where we're going to go next in our lives. And what doors to open. Jupiter in Scorpio definitely is a powerful part of this. And with Jupiter, of course, sextiling Pluto, this is definitely about these deeper destinies that we feel called towards, that we're ready to make the change. And this is also major shadow work. And especially with Neptune, which has been in trine to Jupiter. And now, of course, we've got this new moon opposing Neptune. While it's sextiling Jupiter, there's a lot about, deep shadow work, deep soul work, deep unconscious work, the things that really are, coming up to question on whether or not, what are we going to do about parts of ourselves that aren't working for us, that are kind of blocking the manifestation, that are blocking us from our true happiness and our ability to really be in this reality and manifest great things. And if we look at all this earth, right, with this grand trine that we've been going on with, right, we've got Mercury in Virgo, which is in its home sign. It's been trining Uranus, been trining Saturn. This major quantum leap forward with Saturn in its own sign of, moving into a quest. This is a literal quest that we're stepping into. Because Saturn now, and every time that Saturn comes direct, you have to think of it this way. As Saturn's going to be moving forward, Saturn knows it's coming all the way up to 20 degrees of Capricorn. So it knows it's coming way up into to the last decan of Capricorn. So that means if you look at where Neptune is, we're getting ready coming up here, in the wintertime and at the beginning of the new year, of Saturn sextiling Neptune in Pisces. And that's a big deal. We've never seen that in our lives, ever. Okay, number one, never seen that in our lives. And so the reason why this is so big is because this is the true aspect in astrology that I would call the true quest. Whether you want to call that a holy grail quest, if you've been following me on Instagram or Facebook, I've been putting a lot of Camelot energy out there. But this is truly all the mystical tribes, all the mystical, whether it's Avalon and Camelot, or whether you go all the way back to, any civilization. You could even go all the way back to whatever you want to call it, whatever you and your soul has been really connected with. This is really that moment here. And so this new moon in Virgo is a purification moment, but, it's kind of like at the same time, a very weird purification, purifying yourself through your truth, through your shadows, like through, really purifying through being what's authentic. Authenticity is everything with Saturn in Capricorn, with Jupiter in Scorpio, and even with this new moon in Virgo, which is an authentic alignment. And even, if we look at this from this North Node in Leo perspective too, like this authentic heart, this authentic courage to step into your quest in your life now after these major eclipses. And so if we want to talk about Venus, right? Venus leaving Libra, moving into Scorpio in shadow, getting ready for its retrograde on October 5th. But Venus, of course, is at detriment in Scorpio. And now Venus is in the middle of this square to Mars, opposition to Uranus, and at the same token, right? It is getting ready to square the nodes. And even though this isn't happening exactly here on the new moon, but looking forward with this new moon energy, as we set this intention to purify ourselves and to truly come into an alignment in our life and a purification process of how we're going to move forward, and a deep look at the past, a deep look at, where we sit spiritually, where our consciousness sits. This is a point to where we really have to give it everything we got. This is not a surrender moment as far as surrendering from stepping forward, but it is a surrender moment, is in knowing by stepping forward, allowing the universe to truly come into your life, allowing the right pieces to come into your life. You know, I think the biggest test that I've noticed through this Saturn retrograde in Capricorn and with all these eclipses and with all these retrogrades over 2018 has been the true understanding that our free will really is whether or not we're using our ego. You know what I mean? Like, and not letting soul do the work. I mean, it's like, you can look at it in a million ways. Oh, if my bank account is not, especially with all this earth energy, right? Like if my bank account's not at a certain number, you know, it's kind of like I feel like I am not where I want to be, life is not right, whether it's, oh, my relationship, or whether it's, oh, my car, or whether it's, you know, I know these are all physical or even like, you know, kind of physical things, even relationships, right? But, you know, this Venus in Scorpio is trying to reveal kind of a deep purge of like, okay, there are things that you value a lot. But at the end of the day, what is the greatest value in your life that has nothing to do with a physical thing, but an emotional thing? And I think that this is where this is this calling that is deepening our souls into realizing that, you know, what our ego desires, what our ego wants, what even our soul aches for, you know, it really is trying to understand what is that? Not only physically, spiritually, but like there has been this real deep like, am I going to make it? Am I going to survive? Am I going to move forward into my life in a pure state? Is there a pure state? Is there a world that isn't chaotic? I mean, this is the sun been opposing Neptune, folks. I mean, I think it's so funny when I turn on, you know, the news and when I look at all these stories and stuff and they all talk about chaos and this side and that side, whether it's politics or in the world. I mean, it's like, this is the sun opposed Neptune. Come on. I mean, it's about being neurotic and crazy, but the other side of this is about channeling some of the most deepest spiritual information ever. And this Venus in Scorpio is covering, this weekend is covering the trauma that went down in your life on October 6th of 2012. I'll never forget that day when Saturn went into Scorpio. The reason why that was such a traumatic time was because we fully immersed ourselves in preparation for trying to understand what all this Scorpio realm has been about. And with Jupiter here and now Venus finally here on this new moon. And if you actually look at this new moon, even though finally Venus is slowing down enough to get out of the semi-square, because that's what's been going on, is the sun has been semi-squaring Venus before this retrograde. And that's usually what happens, right? We get into this weird thing with relationships and money and projects and how are they all going to come together and how are they all going to work out? What's going to make me happy? What's not? Like, but at the same time, the semi-square really starts to align people, you know, in the weirdest of ways. And I think that it has been us realizing deeply that we have these traumas, we have these things that we all thought were going to come together and they didn't. Okay, that's the best way to put it. All these things that we thought were going to come together and they didn't over this last 8 years since the last time Venus was in Scorpio and shadow. I mean, if you go back to your life in October and November of 2010, and then you kind of quantum leap all the way to now, and you look at the middle point of that, which I did in, it's actually on my webinar. You guys should check it out about September. But, you know, you look at the midpoint of the last Venus retrograde, right? So what's that midpoint? The 4-year cycle was the solar eclipse at 0 degrees of Scorpio with Venus at 0 degrees of Scorpio. So, you know, there's even those times that are coming up now. Really, I mean, this 6-year period, especially once we get more into the Scorpio realm, you know, and all the things that we faced inside of our awakening, of our fears, and learning to transform into the spiritual self, into this awakening process, has been so extreme that Venus and Jupiter now are here to clean up this mess. But at the same time, part of the purification process is we always align purification. And the reason why, it's funny, I know the reason why the universe asked me to truly 100% stop the video, and then I had to run back into my offices and I had to do a couple things. And then there I saw my golden tarot deck. And I was like, okay, the universe asked me to pick those up. And I was like, okay, so why is that? And I think a lot of it is because, the cleanup that is happening and the deep stuff that is going on is that, purification is not based off this typical, we'll just pick a random card, this kind of traditional Renaissance, Catholicism-based kind of form of purification. This is definitely we purify ourselves by becoming more authentic in who we are and not being afraid of that authenticity, because we have been in a world and a program, and we have been programmed to be afraid of our true authentic self. And I think that Venus is pissed the fuck off. I'm going to be honest with you. Venus is literally Venus penis. How funny. I just realized the whole reason why penis and Venus go so well together. Is that, I bet you guys are all going, ah. So Venus is pissed. If you look at Venus, the last time it was here 8 years ago, Saturn was in Libra. Saturn was about to come into Scorpio, and Venus was laying all this ground of these deep needs and deep wants. But Venus knew the nodes are coming in here, the eclipses are coming in here, Saturn's coming in here, the North Node and Saturn are going to meet up in Scorpio. And so in many ways, I think all the things over this last 8 years, all the things that we thought were going to happen and all these powerful transformations we were going through came through kind of in a way that left a bitter taste in our mouth. Well, I got it, but there's still something missing. Venus doesn't want nothing missing, and especially when it's in Scorpio, not at all. It wants everything. And with this opposition now to Uranus, I think a lot of this is, okay, there are new things to attach to Taurus that we can build from, that we can grow from. This is a new age. This is a new dawn. And in all of our lives, or most of our lives, we've never seen Venus oppose Uranus. I mean, most of us that are watching this video, based off my stats. So unless you were living in the 1930s, and you were very aware, and you were knew what was going on at every second of your life, I'll be real. Most of us had no idea. We've never felt this before. We've never felt Venus shadow. And actually, because Uranus came into Taurus in May of this year, the truth is that we've never felt Venus and Scorpio oppose Taurus, and Uranus and Taurus. So the fact that that's happening during this new moon, the fact that Venus has been squaring Mars and they're both in shadow, right? Because Mars, even though it's direct, it still has to go all the way to 9 of Aquarius before it's out of its shadow period. That we're in an even more intense scenario than 8 years ago. We're in an even more intense scenario than October of 2012. We're in an even more intense scenario than October of 23rd of 2014. We're in an even more intense scenario of August of 2015 when Saturn went back into Scorpio after being in Sag, and with Jupiter in Leo and the squares to Saturn. We're even in a more intense scenario than the retrograde of Mars Scorpio in 2016. We're in an even more intense scenario than the Saturn square Neptune aspects of the election of 2016 in November. We're in an even more intense scenario than the Pluto-Uranus square that happened from 2012 to 2015, but technically has been going on since 2010, because Pluto entered into Capricorn in 2008, Uranus entered into Aries in 2010, and then we saw the build-up, and then we've been seeing the end, but guess what? Uranus comes back in November into Aries, and Pluto is still in Capricorn, so this Pluto-Uranus square is technically not over. We got a little break, but the truth is that we're not done. And this is like the tipping point starting to begin. And the tipping point is so insane and so intense and so wow factor, okay? It's like so wow factor that this moment, purification, is who you really are. Who you really are. It is not about being afraid of authenticity. Now, of course, Saturn asks for integrity. So, if you really are, and I've said this, I forgot who I said this to. I said this to somebody, I was driving with someone or something, or I was on the phone. I don't know. I do so many readings, but I was like, integrity can come in so many different forms and ways. So somebody had asked me one time, well, what if my authentic self is that I want to kill someone? It's like, well, then maybe you join the military And then they looked at me like, oh, I didn't think about that, right? Like, it's like, maybe there's a time where you have to defend the country or something like that. Even though I'm not saying I agree with that or whatever, I'm just saying, like, everybody has whatever their authenticity is in their authentic place. All I'm trying to say is that, like, there are places in the universe for whatever that authentic place is. And we seem to think that there are not. And we seem to, put ourselves through this whole entire, phase of feeling like we're extreme sinners, that we can never, ever ascend to a higher place ever. That it's like we have to, and I'm not saying that sin is not real, or that doing negative things or bad things are not real. I'm just trying to tell you that, like, it's part of the process of understanding how to stay in alignment anyway. And this is us not being afraid so much anymore, like knowing what the boundaries are, knowing what we desire, and trusting the universe in how this is all going to form, how this is all going to come about. That we just need to step into it with asking the universe, because Scorpio is about asking, Virgo is about figuring out how to make it happen physically, that there's this part in ourselves right now, and Mars at this last degree at the edge of Capricorn and its exaltation. There's a lot of planets really in positive positions, I'll be honest with you. But there's also a lot of planets that are in really weird positions. So that's the best way to put it. Like, there's a lot of good scenarios in your life, and then there's a lot of freaking off and weird ones. It's like, how are we going to put this all together? First of all, it's not weird to be you. It's not weird to be honest with yourself and to not be hard on yourself. Purification is the realization of where you're hard on yourself, or where you feel, that you need to be cleansed of your unclean soul. And this is a point for us to have that tipping point now where this is extreme. Like, the story hasn't ended. And in many ways, I think that what happened this year got us to a point to where we all kind of said, well, what the hell? I did all this work. It started to feel good. And then what happened? It all just went. And this, however you want to call it, is now finally exposing what it is. And really it is the true splitting of the earth. Dolores Cannon says it best. The first wave is done, the second wave is here. And, I think that's the hardest part, is, especially with all this Capricorn energy, a lot of people on the first wave have a hard time with this new second wave of energy. And then on top of that, where we look at just in the galactic shift points, where we look at in the ages, where we look at in where we're shifting in so many different levels, in this huge, massive, buildup of energy. This is about adaptability to the times, adaptability into new thought, new observations of what spirit is, about what purification is, about what, this whole entire spiritual journey is about. And that, it's a mission-based life. That we came down here for a mission. And this is the mission. It's in front of you right now. And it's a choice. This Virgo is looking at everything and how it's not coming together. And this opposition to Neptune is looking at how it's so beautiful and magical, but yet at the same time going like, I don't know if I can even do this without knowing how to do this and having somebody help me or having some sort of process figured out. So it becomes a little confusing. But the main thing is to just be real. And the main thing is to ask the universe. And one thing about Scorpio is it's kind of secret, right? It's kind of like even the stuff that you really want to be authentic about is very difficult to fully put out there in the world, or put out there in public, or speak about, or really connect with. And so the best place we can do that is with ourselves and with the universe and with God. And this is a moment for us to ask for that and to show up. And showing up in the real world is one thing, and it's very important right now with all this earth energy. And especially, and I know this video is getting way longer than I thought it was going to be, but I'm just going to finish it with this. So, authenticity of showing up in the physical world is super important, especially now, and especially before this Pluto-Saturn conjunction that's coming up in 2019, 2020, but also the Jupiter-Saturn, which will finally be an air sign, and it's been forever. I mean, it's been over a century since we've had Jupiter and Saturn out of Earth, right, in an air sign. So, you know, like this is us asking the universe for the world to show up for us in the authentic self that we want to be, and watch the things that no longer serve us fall away. I almost lost all the cards there, but truly fall away. Instead of trying to, you know, get in there and I'm going to remove this and I'm going to do that and I. You know, this is a very we, not only in the world, but a we as you, God, Spirit, the angels. And so this is about the we of we are going to shift this place. This is the we are going to come together and shift this world. This is the we are in this together. We know our authentic selves. And this is where relationships, this is where friendships, this is where business alliances, this is where everything dealing with relationships, this is where projects, this is where the lines start to be drawn. Are we on the same mission? Are we both authentically in our same selves? Are we the same? And I'm not saying that like, that, and you know, unfortunately, based off the astrology, based off where Neptune was in the 1850s especially, and with the squares from Jupiter to Neptune that is coming in 2019, you know, there is a split happening in the world. And so, you know, this is about finding where people emotionally sit. This is where people feel, are you and me in the same authentic space? And that's what this new moon's about. And it's all tipping over. Like, whew, and it's coming fast. And you can feel it. So let it happen. Ask the universe for that authentic self to be seen in the world, but show up to God with it. God knows that. But you have to kind of throw it back out to God too, right? Like, this is me. This is where I know you created me. I know I have a mission here. I know this is quest time. Let's do it. This is what I want. This is who I want to be. This is the life. These are the people. These are the projects. This is the vibe I want to be in. And I know whatever is meant to be is meant to be. I know that whatever that the universe will bring to me is going to be exactly what I want, and start putting it out there to the universe. That's what this new moon is about. You have to do a new moon ceremony for this. Unfortunately, I don't think I have a show here, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do spiritual dance music, which I'd love to do. I will try Sunday night to do it. But I have a lot of things going on too. But I'm going to do a ceremony, and maybe I'll do my own private one, or maybe I'll just do like a quick live stream like in the office doing it. I don't know. But this is it, guys. From here, it tips. October comes, Venus retrograde, Mars leaving shadow. I mean, there's a lot here. And it's going to be very powerful. So be prepared. And be ready for the adjustments. And allow the universe to be the adjustment in your life. Because I think that's super important during these times right now. Because the adjustment period is a little crazy, right? When you have Neptune opposing the sun and the new moon and all that stuff, you know, it can feel like a confusing adjustment. But don't be afraid of it, and don't be afraid for what you really want and what is truly authentic to you deep inside. I'm picking one card and I've been shuffling it the whole time, because some people have been asking me on the app like, are you really shuffling? I shuffled before and I picked the card. I've always done that. I'm authentic. I'm real. I don't fuck around. And I have this little fly here hanging out. I shouldn't have batted it or her or him away, but it doesn't want to leave. The card for this new moon is, and it came this way, and it came the Ace of Cups upright. And this is from the Golden Tarot deck. And the reason why I love this deck is it connects me with a lot of my Renaissance time, a lot of my Camelot energy. And with the Ace of Coins, it is about building. And I was shuffling the whole time. The whole time we were all talking, I was shuffling. And the Ace of Coins is about, this is a new, fresh start in your physical foundation, your reality, the beauty you're creating in your life. I mean, this is really a whole new start. This is a whole new beginning. This is really embracing a whole new physical world, a whole new purpose. Meaning behind the beauty, meaning behind the reality, meaning behind it all. And this is an ace. This is the ace in the hole that we need in our lives, about the changes that we're making, about the changes that we're ready to see in our reality. And this, my friends, is it. Enjoy this tipping point. And I hope that together, that we all align in that same authentic, same desired place. And that we find whatever the new rules, the new traditions, the new world, the new truth, this new energy that is coming out into the world, that we all connect there. And for those that don't go on that road, don't get weird on them. They have, maybe that's their world and what they've always wanted. This is what authenticity is about. And this is not about shunning people for what they do, what they don't. This is about embracing that they're being in their authentic self, and you're not the one that can judge if they're in that or not. You can only judge yourself, you can only judge, or the higher up truly can. But this is an exciting moment. I'd be prepared, because watch your whole world start to shake up after this new moon and change things in the way that you weren't ready for, but actually at the weirdest way you've been aching for. Thanks so much. I love you all, and I will see you on the next video if you're on futurelife.tv. Later.
Wake up to your future like you've never seen before.